This isn't just another video. It's a quiet guide. And for the next few minutes, you don't have to carry anything except your own thoughts. Have you ever felt tired in a way that sleep could never fix? As if something invisible had been resting on your shoulders for so long that you stopped noticing its weight, believing it was simply part of who you are. The strange thing about emotional burdens is that they rarely arrive all at once because most of them are collected little by little. A disappointment that was never processed, a responsibility that was never yours, a promise you felt obligated to keep, a mistake you never forgave until one day you find yourself carrying a life that feels much heavier than the one you were actually given. At first, you tell yourself that being strong means carrying everything without complaint, because that is what responsible people do. They keep going, they protect others, they solve problems. They never become a burden themselves, and slowly strength becomes confused with silent exhaustion. Perhaps nobody ever asked whether you wanted to carry all of this, because many of the heaviest burdens are accepted without words, simply through habit, guilt, expectation, or love. And after enough time, they begin to feel less like choices and more like permanent parts of your identity. There comes a moment when you stop questioning the weight itself, because your attention shifts entirely toward finding ways to become stronger, believing that if you could only endure a little more, everything would finally become easier. But what if the answer was never to become stronger? What if the answer was to gently put something down? That possibility often feels frightening because the mind immediately begins asking difficult questions. What if people are disappointed? What if I seem selfish? What if everything falls apart? What if this burden was the very thing that made me valuable to others? Sometimes we continue carrying emotional weight because we secretly believe that suffering proves our love, our loyalty, or our worth. Yet love was never supposed to require the slow disappearance of the person who offers it. Think about how often you apologize for needing rest, for saying no, for protecting your peace, as though caring for yourself required permission from everyone except the person living your life. It is remarkable how easily we recognize unnecessary weight in someone else's life while defending it in our own, because compassion often flows outward much more naturally than inward. Imagine meeting a friend carrying a backpack filled with stones collected over many years, each stone representing guilt, regret, expectations, old arguments, impossible standards, and imagine watching them refuse to remove even one because they insist they have become accustomed to the pain. You would never admire their suffering. You would quietly help them take the backpack off. So why is it so difficult to offer yourself that same kindness? Perhaps because letting go is often misunderstood as giving up, when in reality it may simply be recognizing the difference between responsibility and unnecessary sacrifice. There are burdens that help us grow because they teach commitment, patience, and resilience. But there are other burdens that slowly shrink our lives until surviving replaces living, and we continue carrying them only because we have forgotten what freedom once felt like. The weight you were never meant to carry does not always disappear overnight, because some burdens have been with you for years, but every honest moment of awareness loosens their grip a little more. You do not have to solve your entire life today. You do not have to forgive everything today. You do not have to become a completely different person today. Perhaps today is only about asking one gentle question. What am I still carrying that no longer belongs to me? The answer may not arrive immediately, and that is perfectly fine because clarity rarely appears through force. It usually arrives when the mind finally becomes quiet enough to notice what it has been holding all along. Maybe peace has never been waiting at the end of another achievement or another sacrifice. Maybe peace has been patiently waiting beside the things you no longer need to carry. And perhaps the greatest act of strength is not proving that you can carry every weight life places upon your shoulders, but finally giving yourself permission to set down the ones that were never yours to begin with.